pastor was attending a men's breakfast in a Mississippi farm county. And he asked one of the impressive older farmers to say grace that morning over breakfast. So after everybody was seated, the old farmer began to pray. Lord, I hate buttermilk. The pastor was a little taken aback. He opened an eye, he looked at the guy. The farmer kept going. He said, Lord, you know I don't care much for raw white flour. The pastor opened another eye, and he wondered himself where this was going. And the farmer loudly said, Lord, I hate lard. And the pastor was debating about put his hand on his back or not, and to stop him. But before he could, the farmer continued his prayer. But Lord, when you mix them all together and bake them up, I do love fresh biscuits. So Lord, when things come up we don't like in our lives, when life gets hard, when we just don't understand what you're saying to us, we just need to relax and wait till you're done next time. And probably it'll be something even better than biscuits. Amen. It was a good John Killinger story to talk about how Jesus approaches unexpected things in life. And, Jesus handles everything that he and the disciples meet along the road. Even 10 lepers, who I think to fully appreciate this story, we need to do some visual stuff. And this was one of the, I felt, more compelling paintings that I found of the story of the 10 lepers and the one who came back. It was probably a natural reaction of the disciples to hope that they didn't come any closer. And I'll go into Leviticus 13 in a minute. But what strikes you about this artist's rendition of the story? What do you notice about this group? You don't see any faces. Yeah? No individuality there. The ones looking back, yeah, it's the 10 lepers and the one who came back, yeah. Leviticus 13 says this. This is the Torah, the law. If a person has a skin disease that spreads, he must warn other people by shouting, "Unclean! Unclean!" His clothes must be torn at the seams. He must let his hair stay uncombed, and he must cover his mouth. That person will be unclean the whole time he has the disease. He is unclean and he must live alone outside or in a camp. So they lived in a time when skin diseases were your own fault. Or worse, it was a curse somehow from God. And this was not only painful and perhaps deadly to have an untreated skin disease, but it also was separation from all the people that you knew. Today, we talk about mercy. We talk about having a cold sore. We talk about acne. We talk about many different skin diseases, and all of them would have fallen into the same category. It's a group of people who are made outcasts by the things that others believe in. We were at the Ohio Conference meeting the other day, and people were talking about their church and why they liked it. And the one woman turned to her husband while they were discussing all the good things that their church was doing in the community. And she said, "Can I say what I think our church is like?" And her husband said, "Yeah, go ahead." And she said, "I always say that our church is the island of misfit toys." And everybody in the room erupted because they understood that the church ought to be a place of grace. It ought to be a place where anyone can go, no matter how broken you are. So today, I don't want you to miss the point that this was a group of outcasts. The least likely person is the one who came back. And Luke's gospel is always takes pains to talk about the Samaritans, because Samaritans were faced a lot of prejudice in that area. And we have the parable of the Good Samaritan in the Gospel of Luke. We have this story where they actually have a phrase that says, "And he was a Samaritan." And it makes the not so subtle point that it's the person who you least expect is going to do the right thing will be the one who gets it and does that good thing. And so, good Rabbi Jesus is practicing inclusion. But according to law, he could have said to a Samaritan, "Sorry, no healing for you, you're a Samaritan." And would there have been anyone who ran back? Anyone who received that healing and came back? There were 10 bodies that were healed, but there was also one soul that was healed. And it was the least likely person, a Samaritan leper. And so we always have to remember that the least among us in the eyes of the world is often the person that gets it. It's the person who themselves have suffered through an addiction, who can help others through their addiction. It is the person who has been homeless who can help others through their situation of homelessness. It is always the case that it's the least likely person. So take a good look at the face of the person who's turning back at the far right of the screen. Abraham Maslow had this great needs hierarchy where kind of our basic safety needs are at the bottom, and as you go further up, you end up with spiritual things and self-actualization. And he called this fresh appreciation. And he said self-actualizing people have the wonderful capacity to appreciate everything. The basic goods of life with awe, with pleasure, with wonder, with even ecstasy. However stale these experiences may have come to others. In seeking pleasure, we become desensitized to pleasure. This is a renewed appreciation for everything in the world. So part of what we do in the life of the church is we honor everyone's life. And we remember with awe what a sacred thing a human being is. We realize what a sacred thing our time is. And churches and families and organizations become stronger because of what they have to struggle through together. 2 weeks we're doing Token Fest in service here. Token Fest is the service where we project the pictures of people that we've been close to and who have died in this past year. We're preparing the list, and I hope some of you have received the list and you read the list and feel that you can add somebody there that you want to have lifted up as an important part of your life. And as I was going through the names, the name of Ruth Tisher stood out to me. So many of you know I still kind of have a little sense that we ought to have somebody right here because she was in a wheelchair right here that's cut out in a congregation that realized we have to make room for differently abled people, as Suzanne has said. But Ruth Tisher did so much for us through her illness. She showed us strength. She showed us perseverance. And I can't tell you how many people are here today who used to drive Ruth Tisher around in her van. And through all of that, the gift that she gave gift of compassion, the gift of a relationship. And so many people came together and admired her for it. Think about how when we see the need in another person, we have a spiritual practice of compassion. Gratitude and humility go hand in hand. It doesn't matter if some of you are visitors that call to care. You want to go because it's such a good thing to care for another person. For people who go to Mexico with us and build houses with Esperanza, you want to go because it's a spiritual practice and it feels good to do those things. It feels good to love people because it cements your relationships with God and with other people. And we learn so many important life lessons through serving, through gratitude and compassion. It's a way out of grief. And if you are here today, you are the leper who turned back. When I was in Springfield, Illinois, there was a great guy named Ken Sibley he was a retired superintendent of one of the local school districts. And he wrote a book. It was called A Certain Dignity. And I think that's the only book I ever got quoted in a good way. And this, I had preached a sermon on how the church ought to be like Dairy Queen. We treat you right. Remember that? And that's my claim to fame, because I was in a book once and I stole Dairy Queen's motto. But he wrote this book, and it was called A Certain Dignity, and each page had a different person on it. And he talked about his experience, and he said this, and the title of his page was Down on My Knees, which goes along with this. He said, in early 1945, I was aboard the USS Mount Olympus in the Philippine Islands, preparing for the invasion of Japan. In August 1945, President Harry Truman announced the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. And the Japanese surrendered. A few months later, the Mount Olympus returned to Long Beach, California, where I was discharged from the Navy. When I set foot on good earth, I went down on my knees, thankful for a safe return to the United States and freedom. At the time, I said I would never complain about anything ever again. I confess I slipped a couple of times. Isn't that our experience? The experience of a fresh appreciation through what we struggle. There's a line in the Bible, and I'm going to quiz you today about it. Who in the Bible said the phrase, "What was meant for evil, God uses for good"? What was meant for evil, God uses for good. Probably got 5 clergy here. Somebody can bail me out. Somebody can bail me out here. There's theological education in this room, probably about 25 years of education. That was Joseph when his brothers came back, remember? His brothers threw him in a well, sold him into slavery. Many years didn't see his father. That's all he wanted to do, was see his father again. The most important thing in his life, see his father again. Joseph had compassion and grace to say what was meant for evil, God uses for good. Fresh appreciation through our struggles. That can be in war, that can be in illness, that can be in poverty. It can be in some of our losses in life. It can be in those end-of-life moments with a loved one and how much they are appreciated. So someone here was asking me recently, I think on Facebook, that's where the people ask all the dramatic questions, right? All the great questions of life on Facebook. So they said, what was it you used to say during Lent? And what was the purpose of Lent? and you might remember I repeated it every Sunday. We are called to struggle against everything that leads us away from the love of God and neighbor. Prayer, fasting, and works of love help us to return to that love. Works of love help us to return to the love of God. Now last week I asked you to pick up a challenge, right? How many of you picked up my challenge from last week? I challenged everybody to think of something they were grateful for before they went to bed at night and when they got up in the morning. So how many of you made it? All right, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And something that you can be mindful of and to be grateful for. So I want you right now to reflect on a person or a place or an idea or an event or a happening that you are grateful for. And now I want you to turn to somebody in the pew and I want you to tell them one thing that you are thankful for. One thing that you give thanks to God for. Take just a moment. Tell somebody. A lot of good whispers going on there. I think that, when we talk about that thankfulness exercise where we think about another person that we're thankful for. And when you do that, it opens up a whole new world that you never imagined because you think about that person and all the fullness of that relationship. So I want to encourage those of you who already are on the path to 2 weeks, right? You're almost there, to pick that up. And you'll be amazed at how it can change your life. So our Jewish brothers and sisters are celebrating. I found this. I thought it was pretty cool that they advertised Succoth because it's kind of a festival atmosphere. And this is a temple that's encouraging people to participate. See, October 13th through the 21st, you create a structure in your backyard. And I just had a couple pictures I wanted you guys to see. See what they did? Somebody set a tent. You see the tent over at the side? That's pretty cool. Good idea. And then they put poles up. Remember you said sticks? And they got the sticks up and they're going to sleep out there for a few days. And don't you think their bed is going to feel pretty good when they get home? Huh? Problem? Eating peanut butter and jelly or something all the time? Not a whole lot of fun. Even throughout Jerusalem, even if you're in a city, they make these little booths. It's called the Feast of Booths or the Feast of Tabernacles. So if you hear that word, this is it. And it's an exercise to develop a sense of gratitude. So here's what I want to say to you today, that everything we do is not just for the person who has a need. Jesus did not do this just for 10 lepers. We call you to service because you need to do it. You need to do it for your soul. You need to do it for your sense of gratitude and your fresh appreciation of life. Jesus didn't do it just for that. He did it for the disciples who were standing around him, who heard all the rabbis talking about Leviticus 13 and how you should never go near someone like that. He did it to give the disciples hope and courage and to change their behavior. So people standing around, people that see you doing a good thing, they need to draw hope and courage from your example. And best of all, this is what I like. Best of all, if you do something good for someone else, I guarantee you that Jesus will crack a smile when he sees you do it. Wouldn't it be great if we said in the church, why should you do good things? So that you can see Jesus crack a smile because he appreciated so much that you got outside your zone and you did something good. Remember, there will be more joy in heaven. More joy in heaven. God calls us into the church to go out into the world to heal the world. It's called the cost and the joy of discipleship, and you can't separate those two. So we meet Jesus on the road, and Jesus went about doing good, as it says in the book of Acts. And it's not the wise, it's not the powerful who make a church what it is, but it's those people who understand what it means to be grateful, because they've had their moments in the wilderness. Works of love help us to return to that love. And I want to sum it up with bringing it back to the letter of 1 John. And I want to invite you to join me in the full print, because it's all about embodying God's love. Beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. And whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. No one has ever seen God. But if we love one another, God lives in us, and God's love